Hello, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching on a Friday afternoon. We have an amazing, amazing treat for you today. My name is Catherine Rain. I'm one of your LabCode agent moderators, and I am here today with Elisha Stobbe. She is a #1 best-selling author, and you probably know her book. It's How to Get Approved for the Best Mortgage Without Sticking a Fork in Your Eye. And she has a new book out, and we're going to discuss mortgage, we're going to discuss relationship with realtors, and her new book today. Elisha, hi.
Hey, Catherine. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here. It's good to be
Awesome.
on the same coast, you and I, in the same beautiful, sunshiny state, right?
Yes, yes, very grateful for the weather right now. So, well, thank you for taking the time to be on with all of our amazing LabCode agents. Elisha, for those of us that don't know you yet, please tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. So I've been in the lending business since 2003. So I got in when it was the last refi boom. And I said, I think I'm going to focus on purchase business. And they said, you're crazy. And it's 2005. I said, I don't know. I think I can do refi and purchase, as a newbie. They were like, you're crazy. I'm like, so anyway, you know what happened in 2005 and 6 was amazing. I was there for the crash, 7, 8, 9, the rebuild, 10, 11, 12. I went from having my just originating loans to running my own branches, which I love to do. I love to help people grow. I love to empower loan officers, realtors as well. So I love to serve and I love to help people. And it makes me happy. And plus the benefit is they usually get to make more money. Everybody does.
So you have been featured basically everywhere: Wall Street Business Radio Network, NPR, Fox, ABC, NBC, CBS. You also had a major success with your first book. Tell us a little bit about that book and what inspired you to write it.
Thank you. Yes, I've been so fortunate that the message was received. I wanted to write a book, and I remembered my one of the sales managers in our company was like, "How long is this book going to take for you to finish?" And it ended up being 2 years, nights and weekends. And the final, yeah, I know it took forever, the first one. So, but the final push really was just getting focused on elevating the level of professionalism in the mortgage industry and empowering consumers to ask succinct, great questions so they actually would learn and understand what's going on, right? Because from us and you, right, we do this all day long. And I found that sometimes we just don't take all the time that's needed. I mean, if somebody asks a question, great, but sometimes they don't have the confidence to even ask a question so that we can explain and answer it. So I just wanted to give something to the world that would really help. And once I focused on truly coming from a serving mentality, then the book went quickly at the end. So it's great. I was really fortunate. It was a #1 bestseller for almost a solid year, 1, 2, or 3 for like 3.5 years. And I'm also super grateful because there's great interviews in it. Gary Keller was kind enough to let me interview him. His CEO at the time, Mark Willis, let me interview him. Dolly Lentz, who's a superpower agent out of Manhattan, let me interview her. So it's not just, there's a lot of mortgage talk and explaining, but there's great interviews about, what to expect from realtors. There's information about homeowners insurance, why you need it, why it's important, questions you want to ask. There's information on home inspections in it with a couple of interviews with home inspectors. So thankfully, it's been well received and people
Awesome.
seem to like it.
Really, really cool. I have 2 questions for you on that book specifically. So from a consumer perspective, because I own myself many homes also, and I never did a second question the lenders before, probably like you have the experience with consumers. So I think the third house I bought like 6 years ago, I didn't even get my rate until like 4 days before closing, which was crazy to me now looking back, right? And it was a lender that was in my office that, I had given a lot of business to. And I really feel that it should have been handled better from his side, but also from my side, I should have been more persistent. What can you advise a customer, like, if you can give two things that a customer should do before obtaining a mortgage, what would you advise?
So the two biggest things I think are get pre-approved. So it's not a pre-qual, right? Because once we're under contract, we're going.
Yeah.
Now you're on the hook for a home inspection, an appraisal, that can, depending on the part of the country you're in, that can cost anywhere from $750 to $1,000 if you're in jumbo land or anyway. So I think that's really important because you want to make sure you can actually buy the house you've picked out.
Yeah.
So that's the first one. And that also, part of that enables you to go over the loan programs with your lender, which I think is the second thing, is people need a loan estimate and never assume the client knows how to read it. So, because I have clients say, oh, I got this rate, and I'll say, oh, that's a great rate. I can get you that rate, but my rate shows points. Are you paying points? Oh, no, they said there's no points. I'm like, can you send me the loan estimate?
Yeah.
I'm like, there's 2.5 points on here. Did you want to pay $5,000? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, in writing is what counts, because that's what you're going to sign. So I think that's also important, to go over the loan estimate line by line with the client, which is, it's the old GFE for anybody who's been around long enough. And I think it's important also that the lender point out that, so the buyer can also accurately shop, right? I think it's important the lender point out, these are our fees. This is what your rate is. It's locked or it's floating, because that's important too, right? There's got to be a rate that you use to underwrite. But if it's not locked and it goes up, does the lender have a float down policy if the rates get better? And I also like to go through what can change and why on that loan estimate. So for example, if we're using generic title company fees, depending on what state you are, sometimes the buyer selects the title company, sometimes the seller selects the title company.
Right.
And like in our state, there's benefits for the seller to select, because then they pay for some of the buyer's fees. So I think it's important to explain that as well, because if I send out a generic title company fee and your seller in the state of Florida, or you picked a different title company and their fees are more expensive or less, that's going to change for better or for worse. So I like to go through every section and explain where those fees come from, how we got them, what could change and why.
I think this is really amazing what you're explaining, because I barely have a loan officer that I'm working with that does that. Even on my own deals where, I'm a little bit more educated, I would say, than the normal consumer that buys one house every 5 years, because I do it on a daily basis. But I have personally not received that service that you're pointing out, where somebody goes over things with me line by line, where I'm really aware of what I'm spending, what I'm responsible for, and somebody that just explains it. Because those consumers, they don't buy a house every day, and they're they have like a blindfold over their eyes, and they don't know what it is. And if somebody does it on a very high level, I think that is very helpful. So now to my question number two, or my comment number two. So as a real estate professional, I find it very hard to work with a lending partner, and I've been through a lot. My expectations are high.
And they should be.
I give a white glove service to my clients.
Yep.
So when I hear that the lender either was rude or short on the phone or impatient or didn't give explanations or didn't return the call or came with stuff last minute or delayed the closing, all those things that we as realtors know, it is very hard for me to keep a straight face, because my reputation is on the line, right? I recommend the lender, and it is the lender's job to do his job to my level. And it's the same with title agencies. I've had a lot of issues with title agents that were not up to my standards. And then at the end of the transaction, I sometimes give them feedback on what I would like them to improve. And it's not just a suggestion, it's a demand. To be honest with you, it's a demand in order to continue working with me, because I want to keep my clients happy. And so my question is, if you get a feedback from an agent that wants something changed, how would you as a mortgage professional address those issues?
So first, let me say all the examples you gave of negative lender comments, that is completely unacceptable. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
I always welcome feedback from my realtors on both sides of the transaction, actually. So my buyer's realtor and then the listing agent as well, and the borrower, because I think it's important because yes, the borrower is my client. You as the realtor are my client as well. And I need to do everything I can to make sure you're happy, we're on the same page. And I think that's really important. Everything you said as a bad example is horrible. That's one of the reasons that lenders get bad reputations because they don't behave professionally. This is the biggest transaction people typically have in their entire life is buying a home. You want to be relaxed. You want to understand everything as the client. As the realtor, you want your client taken care of. So, and we send out surveys after every single transaction, purchase or refinance. And I let the buyer know that's coming ahead of time. And we sample our realtors too. And I will ask the buyer, is there anything else that I could be doing better for you? Do you feel like you have a complete understanding? Do you feel like you're up to date in the loan process? Because we're going to send you a survey and I want a 5-star review. And I would rather you give me the opportunity now to fix it if there's anything that I've overlooked by mistake. It's my job to serve you to the highest capacity that I can, and your realtor as well. So I
love everything what you're doing. It looks like I need new partners. So and I'm sure it's also from the real estate side, not always perfect. What would you as the mortgage lender expect more from the realtors?
Great question. So I think one thing that I've learned in my almost 18 years now in the business is that if there's a deal and something can go wrong, it might, right? So I look at it like it's our job as a team between the lender and the realtor to keep the client calm, right? So every once in a while, you know what I mean? Like something happened, you can't help. Like it could be whatever. They went out and bought a car, right? They didn't listen when you said, don't buy the car before closing, right? Wait till they get the house, then put it in.
I had once, I believe it was $25,000 or $30,000 baby shower.
Oh yeah, okay. Did that go on the credit card and mess up the debt to income ratio? Yeah.
Yeah, so because I didn't mention the baby shower. I only mentioned the car and the boat.
Well, those are definitely more important. But so things are going to happen. And I just think it's our job as the professionals leading the transaction. It's our job that you and I, as the lender realtor, work together. Like if something happens, I'm not going to call the buyer and go, oh my God, you did the baby shower and you put it on your I'm going to go, oh, wow. And then I'm going to run my numbers and figure out what we can do to fix it.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to either call them or call you. And I'm going to say, hey, Catherine, so somehow they put the baby shower on the credit card. We have a debt to income ratio problem. Here's my idea to solve it. I wanted to let you know because I'm going to call them now. Is there anything else you think I should address with them?
I love that you say that because many times I get the bad news from the buyer instead of from the mortgage broker. And I'm like, wasn't that me that's supposed to deliver that message?
Well, if it's about finance, it really is the lender's place, but absolutely you should not be blindsided by that information at all, in my opinion. Yeah. I look at all my realtors as partners.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say, it's all about communication.
Absolutely. And I think, we're all busy. I myself try to work by appointment, but if something comes up like that and I'm on the Zoom call now or whatever, like I'm texting. Hey, Catherine, you're not going to believe what just came across my email. I'm on a conference call.
Message too with someone that can't get into a property. And I'm like,
it happens, right? We need really 3 of us most of the time. Yeah. So I would be texting saying, I have something, I'm working on an idea. That's the other thing. I don't just call and give bad news. I want to call with a solution and then discuss it with the buyer and the realtor so we can agree on it together so that we can move forward to closing.
Because after all, we're all just problem solvers.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't get this concept. They are problem creators versus solvers. And I always like, no matter what happens, we always need to keep the client calm, because if the client also gets crazy, then forget it.
Right, because then we're not getting another referral from anybody they know.
Yeah, totally agree. So now off to the new book, which I'm very, very interested in. So tell us a little bit about the new book, and then I want to know what inspired you to write this book, which is completely different than the first one, right?
It is. Thank you. Yeah, I'm so excited about it. So I had this idea a few years ago that I would write another business book. And I thought, I will say also probably next year or this year, I can't believe it's 2021 already. This year, I'm probably going to do an update to my past book, because there are a lot of updates since COVID that people are not aware of. And I find that an educated consumer becomes the best client because they're aware of what else is going on. So I'm going to do those updates. But anyway, so I was like, oh, I want to write another business book because I love business. I think business is fun. I think business is a spiritual game. And, you know, the more you play it with your heart and soul, the more it grows and you're able to help more and more people. So I was like, I'm going to write this business book and I'm going to do, but I also thought, oh my gosh, like this last book I wrote is like a solid 200, the first book's over 220 pages. And you know, if you're going through the process of getting a mortgage, it's great. Otherwise, I joke that it's like the best cure for insomnia ever. You just put you right to bed. So I thought, okay, I want to write another business one. And I wanted to be able to help more people. So more general. So I had this idea. Okay, so I'm going to do like a different lesson every week, right? Every day to do a lesson is too much, right? We're all busy, you know? So I was like, once a week is good. And I'll do a different motivational business quote. And then I'll do some, you know, just point out some things and some exercises that people could do. And that way it's simple. Like every week you just sit down for 10 or 15 minutes. And then when so I didn't do it for 2 years. I thought I got to do that. I got to do that. And I would jot down ideas. And then all of a sudden around Thanksgiving this year, and I'm sure you and many other people, even though it's been a fantastic year for real estate, there were some emotional challenges that no one wants, right? So, and I just feel like, you know, we're both in Florida, so I can say this. I just feel like we're on another planet from the rest of the country. Like we're out there. So even having said that, though, is definitely some challenges. So, so when I sat down to write it and I was pulling these quotes that I looked up were like business quotes. So like there's a quote about the crazy ones from Steve Jobs, right?
Oh, I love that one.
It's a beautiful one.
That's on my wall.
Oh, I love it. So we're the crazy ones that just go out and do whatever. We'd make it happen. So, but when I actually pulled all these quotes together, like that one came to me as really, he's an amazing businessman, but it's more about he's unique. And then we're all unique in our own beautiful ways. And so those were the kinds of things I was pulling from the quotes. And I just thought, it's not really about business. Now, to be clear, I have a special bonus that I did just for Lab Coat agents. So that will be available to everybody. And that's numbers and income. But for the book, the most part, it is really teaching us about, you know, 52 weeks can go by and a year is gone in a blink. You know, we went through this last year, and what do we do consciously to change our state from depression to happiness, from despair to joy, from, you know, being overwhelmed that your kids are running around like crazies with when you have a Zoom call, right? Like you're like, oh my God. But the reality is, wow, I get to have my kids at home with me all day, you know? Or so there's I call it, instead of I have to, I get to.
Yeah.
So I find when I look at things like that, also, it tends to really lower my stress level, right? Because I could look at all this stuff and be like, oh my God, I have so many different things to do today. But I'm like, oh my God, this is so awesome. I get to talk to these people.
I love how you say that, because I was, yesterday I was in the tub. The tub is my meditation place, right? I'm in the tub 2 hours a day when I'm stressed.
Awesome.
So I have two tubs. I have a small one and a big one. And I'm in the small tub, and my kids yesterday were really exhausting and asking so many things from me. And I was like, oh my God, I was working the whole day. They keep on nagging me about things. They want this, they want that. And I was just, oh my God, it's just too much. But then a voice within me said, you just need to breathe. And then I reminded myself how fortunate I am that my kids are 6 and 12, that they are still little, because I have friends, their kids went to college and they're like empty nesters and they don't have their children around anymore. And I will miss that one day. So I reminded myself of the thought. So I'm glad you're telling us that. So do you think that, like, when you said you wanted to write a business book and then you shifted it a little bit to a spiritual book, that COVID had some saying in that, when you were around in sweatpants all day and you I mean, I'm pretty sure you were, because that's what I did.
Hey, I resemble that remark. Yeah, absolutely, because I think just there were so many hardships that we didn't anticipate, and we had to make so many changes. And I just thought, if you could focus on, if each one of us could really focus on just 10 or 15 minutes a week, what we really want, right? Instead of everything we're being told we have to do or told we can't do, or, and there's so many polarizing, upsetting, news feeds. We can actually choose what news we want to take in. We can choose what, social media we want to take in. Yeah. So it's really about taking ownership and creating the successful. And to me, success, definitely there's finance in there as well, financial success. However, though, you can be totally loaded and flush with cash, but if you are miserable, what's the point?
I totally agree with you. I think this is something that I came this year to a realization with, because I had a very high production the last 3 years, and I did make a lot of money, and I did buy every year 2-3 houses. Last year I bought 4.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But then I was like sitting there and I was always stressed out. I never had time for my kids. I was never home before 8 p.m. I was always stressed out, always on my phone. I couldn't engage in any conversation with people because I was always at the phone. I was at birthday parties with, I was always on the phone. So this year when things changed, I think my realization was that I like the money. I'm not gonna lie, I like to make money, but I really would like to spend more time with my children. And I think the last months I really started to achieve that step by step. I hired a few people that helped me in the admin part of my business, and it has made a change. So I think that COVID has in all of us really started a little change. Sometimes we had to change in order to have our business still flourish or survive. And I think a lot of people changed their mindsets on what's important in life, what's important for their family. I have a lot of clients that are moving back home to where they grew up, that are selling their houses in Miami. They're moving back either to Germany, to LA, to wherever they're from, because they realize during this time what is really important for them. It's not just the money, but I mean, it's their life, like their families. What can I do with the time that I have left? And with everybody thinking they could die from one day to another, they have, changed their perspectives on what's important.
That's beautiful. I couldn't agree with you more.
So I want you to tell us a little bit, about the part in your book where you write about how to decompress and how to not just look at the money. Tell us, like, what tip would you give to someone?
Sure. So the first chapter, so there's 52 chapters, one for each week. And the other thing I will point out also is that it is beautiful that that's the message you got out of COVID. The concerning part is not everybody has that message, because suicide rates are up, alcoholism rates are up. And so I hope that my book will help people who are already in your position be more in touch with what they want, And if they're not in your position, I hope this book helps them, because that's, I mean, it's an awful byproduct of us being in isolation and home by ourselves. So the first chapter is actually on gratitude. And so it really sets the tone for the whole book. So I love this quote by William Faulkner. He says, gratitude is a quality similar to electricity. It must be produced and just discharged and used up in order to exist at all. So like, don't be stingy, love it on people, right? So, so it just walks you through a series of prompts, like who makes you smile? Who's been generous to you? That may be, you know, maybe the assistant that has your coffee ready when you're walking in the door. Yeah, that's might be part of his or her job description. But the fact that that coffee's ready and it's hot, right? Or that you didn't ask for the coffee and it's there on your desk and they know just how you like it. And that could be your husband as well, right? Or your, and, you know, for anybody on the call, your spouse. Like there's a ton of little things that sometimes we just take as daily practice, but it's really not. So that chapter in particular also makes people think, you know, talks about who's supportive of you, who do you have wonderful memories of, right? Because also a lot of us may be separated from our families. Like, you know, I mean, fortunately, you know, I think I would hope that most of us, you know, call to check on our, you know, loved ones when they're not in the same space with us. But now more than ever, if they're isolated or, you know, some of the older generations are more susceptible to illness and maybe they're not going out, you know, and they're stuck at home. Like, you know, who supported you your whole life and needs a little extra love right now or tomorrow, or you should have given it to them yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you started with gratitudes because I mean, at least for me, it works when I have a down day and I'm like really in a bad mood. I think my number one thing I always go back to is gratitude. That elevates immediately your whole mindset.
Well, it takes you out of thinking about yourself, right?
Yeah.
If I'm focusing on what I'm not getting or, you know, what went wrong, then the minute I focus on somebody else and that I'm grateful for them, I'm not thinking about myself anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
beautiful that you do that. Yeah.
So we have a link where everybody can get the book. Maybe we can post that in the comments. So we have a special deal with Lab Coat Agents. Thank you to Nick and Tristan for setting that up. Can you tell us a little bit what's included? You also have some specials, some Excel sheets, you said. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this is actually a special gift that I created just for Lab Coat Agents. Now this one is about the money. So it's so the whole thing actually is a gift that's not in the book. So the initial first half of this giveaway sort of walks you through highlighting and focusing on the great lessons you learned last year and what you want to take forward. And then what you want to leave behind, right? So let's leave behind that negativity, that feeling of overwhelm, like all those things we don't want to take with us into, you know, 2021 now. Then the second half of this, let's call it a mini ebook, is all about the numbers. So let's talk about your numbers for 2020. Let's take one step back and look at 2019. And is there a pattern there, up or down? And then where do you want to go in 2021? And it talks about all your numbers, like average transaction size, so that the agents can get crystal clear on where they are. Because if you don't know where you are, you really don't know what you need to do to go where you want to be. So it goes through all that. It talks about team, you know, what's your buyer's side split versus seller side split. What do you enjoy most? What do you really want to work on versus what you do work on? Right? Because it's actually a choice of how we want to, that it's so amazing. We get to pick every day how we want to grow our business and who we want to work with.
Absolutely.
So, yep. So all those numbers are in there.
Mm-hmm. So that we have that now in the chat, and because I don't see the Facebook chat right now, but if we don't have it yet, we're gonna get it to all of you. It's gonna be in the comments, okay? So if it's not there, check back later. And you can also order her book there. And I I highly recommend it. It sounds really, really amazing. I need to get it too. And I want to ask you something real quick. I'm masterminding with a lot of other agents. I have a lot of other agents reaching out to me, asking for advice. And there was a lot of agents that we should not forget about it this year. They were struggling. Not everybody was like doing amazing. Not everybody was like doubling their production. We always just see on Facebook, oh, I'm so thankful I doubled my production. I did this and that. There's people that are really struggling, and we shouldn't forget about them. Especially also there's small businesses that are struggling. So my question is, if I'm an agent that is struggling with the production, that didn't do that well this year, and I really want to get better, and then I see on Facebook all those other people posting that they were amazing, then I get those spreadsheets to focus on my goals. I'm just overwhelmed. I have my children at home. They don't go to school. I have to homeschool them. I'm just overwhelmed with life right now. I can barely get up in the morning. I cry a lot. COVID has been really hard on my business. If I'm one of those agents, what advice can you give to those people? Because not everybody here is having the best year of their life.
I understand. Yeah, I mean, that's really also part of what prompted me to write the book, is because I think there's a lot of people, agents, and then like you mentioned, small businesses and people who have been laid off that aren't in a great place. So I would, there's also a bonus for Lab Coat agents. So once they get that download, there's also videos that walks them through how to fill it out too. So,
okay, awesome.
So it does help them get through it. But I would say, to your question, is it's all what you focus on. Mm-hmm. And it starts with what you choose for every day. So mm-hmm. It sucks that maybe your production's down, and it's horrible that maybe you got laid off, but you didn't die because of COVID if you're still here.
That's true.
So I think that's the first place to start, and then break apart all the different things, because each of it can actually, every little piece can be solved. I think one of the most amazing things that I've had the opportunity to watch during COVID are the small businesses that totally shifted and pivoted and were successful. And then I watch these other ones just like kind of look around. And I think it's a time all around the planet where you kind of have to take a risk or you're going to be stuck behind. So I think one of the things that we do as children is we take risks because we don't think there's any penalty, right?
Right.
Until we put our hand, right? Kid, you put a kid on skis and they're like gone because they don't think about, oh, I could get hurt falling down this mountain like the adult does. So I think if you're fortunate enough to be surrounded by children, take a daily lesson from them because they're beautiful in the way they live their lives. And also I would say there's great coaches everywhere, right? For realtors, for loan officers. I coach loan officers, but for realtors, there's definitely, like you say, you talk to these people who are in a mastermind. You took the initiative to do that. So I think, people life's not going to get solved and resolved for you. We all have to participate in our own rescue. And I think that's never been more important than right now, because there's still plenty of opportunity, right? Yeah. It's bad for the people that had the bad year, but guess what? That year's been done for 15 days. Yeah. Right? We're in a new year and everybody's like, oh, New Year's resolutions. So you can do them right now, right? It doesn't matter that it's, January 15th or, it could still be February 1st, and you could just decide now, right? I'm still alive. I didn't lose to COVID. I'm still here. It's my life. I'm going to plan it just the way I want to do it. And with the internet these days, there's so many opportunities for people to get great coaching, virtual coaching. I mean, they could pick anybody all over the planet right now because we don't see each other in person that much. So
That's very true. Yeah. Okay, great. I love it. So is there another chapter in your book that you want to highlight for us?
Sure, sure. I like so I do have one on habits because
Okay,
this
great.
is
Let's
I
do
think
it.
it's important. There's one on travel, so that's kind of more of a wish list right now, but we'll just focus. Although
Yeah, let's
really,
not do that. Like, you know,
well, it's funny though, because how many people, like you talk about just switching it up and doing something different, how many people are like traveling the country in RVs?
yeah.
Like the
Oh yeah,
whole
I have a friend who just did it with his kids.
yeah, it's
Mhm.
I mean, it's kind of like I feel like one of the positives right now is we're in an environment where we can just do whatever we want. Like I mean, really, when have we never been tied to? I mean, don't get me wrong. I love my home. I love the physical location. I love where I live, but also I could be here or I could buy a second home and go live there. You know, you can do whatever you want. So anyway,
I went this year for like 3 days to Georgia because I bought 3 houses there in Georgia this year, and I was supposed to stay for 3 days. We ended up staying 2 weeks, and I worked from there. Nobody knew I was gone.
exactly. It's amazing. You can write your own rules right now.
Uh, Absolutely, and you kind of have an excuse.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is too, and don't get me wrong, I'm a people person. Like you could tell, I'm sure. But like I love face to face. So, you know, that's one of the things that has, you know, I've actually suffered from during COVID is because, you know, I love to be around people and I haven't been able to as much as I normally do. But, you know, I just figured out other ways to make myself happy.
Yeah.
Um, so okay, so this chapter is on habits. And this is a quote by Samuel Jackson, or Johnson, sorry, Samuel Johnson. The chains of habit are too weak to be felt until they are too strong to be broken.
I love it.
So we start out with list your good habits, right? I brush my teeth. I drink a smoothie every day. I work out. I get to spend 2 hours in the bath, relaxing. That's my, my self-care time. And I love that. So, and then I ask people to list their bad habits. I drink 4 cups of coffee a day instead of just one, or, I have the triple cheeseburger from McDonald's 5 days a week, or whatever it is. I'm not nice to myself is a bad habit, right? Or I'm not nice to other people is a bad habit. And then I ask people to think about which habits serve your higher self.
Hmm.
So if that's personally, right, I do take the time to connect with my children, or whatever it might be, or I take amazing care of my clients, and it comes back to me, right? Because if I'm nice to somebody else, it serves my best higher self. So, and then I ask people to consider what habits they want to change. So if that is, my business is horrible, okay, you can change that. Guess what? You make more phone calls. Like,
Yes,
let's,
absolutely.
right? To be clear, if you want more business, there are specific steps we need to take on a daily basis. And once you do the business income producing activities, the bottom line is the business will come,
Yeah,
right? And
absolutely.
so there's that. So that one's kind of short and sweet. And that's sort of a sampling. I mean, there's chapters on practice, there's practice on celebration. Like, let me ask you. So this is one thing I'm always curious because, we're in this business. I actually had a friend of mine point out that I wasn't celebrating when I would buy an investment home because I'm just like, oh, it's just another home. Oh, but my friend was like, it's your home, you big dork. Or you tell everybody, all your clients to celebrate, you're not celebrating. So
Yeah.
that's a lesson I've learned. How about you? Did you have like a
Yeah,
dance
I do
party?
celebrate. Yes, I do celebrate. Like we have a glass of wine, we celebrate, we write it on our net worth sheets because most of the homes I buy below market value. So by the time I close, I already have instant equity. Like the one we just bought, like we bought at 160. I need to put 50 in, then it's worth 400, right? So
Awesome.
I'm like, okay, 190,000 net worth added. And then I put a picture in a picture frame and I hang it on our wall. So we have now 8 homes
I
and I want to
love
add
this.
more. I want to have more and more and more. So, where I come from, I'm from Germany. People don't talk about those things. They don't talk about money. They don't talk about what they bought. They don't talk about what they own. So it was really hard to get into the mentality to really celebrate our small steps. And whatever we achieve, it's never enough for me. I always want, like, I always say to my husband, it can be more, it can be more. He's like, can you just like breathe for a second, celebrate and enjoy the moment? Like, we're doing really well. But we do celebrate, but I had to learn to do it because I'm not raised like that. And but I've learned, and this is the beautiful thing about the American culture. I mean, Americans find a reason to celebrate everything, right?
Love that.
I mean, I've learned, like, Thanksgiving, we don't have that. I mean, we have that in Germany, but not to that excess that everybody travels home. And then a month later, they travel again for Christmas. Then, you know, all those celebrations we have here in America, then all the football games. I mean, when you come from another country to the US, you find all of this a little bit excessive, right? But now I see all the celebrations going on. I'm like, cool, another reason to celebrate. 4th of July. Oh my goodness, this is amazing. So that's why I love America so much, because they always find a reason to celebrate. And yeah, nobody works then for a week or two because it was a holiday. And then it's, you know, Catherine, the holidays, basically from mid-November till mid-January, nobody's working. But I love it. Yeah, I had to learn it. So
That's beautiful. I love that. I've actually never met anybody else that has a picture of their investment properties on the wall. I love that.
I do. I love it.
Will you send me a picture of all your pictures?
Yeah, sure. I will send it to you.
That's awesome. I mean, that is, see, and this is one of the things I love about collaborating and talking about these things, because I'm like, that's the coolest thing ever. I never heard about that. So now you taught me something. I love it.
It inspires you. And whenever it's paid off, I put like a sign on it, you know, because two of them are free and clear. And I'm like, paid off, you know. It inspires me to create wealth for my family, because I didn't grow up with it, and I just want my children to have it better. I'm not sure if I'm doing myself a favor that way, but let's see.
That's
so
great.
How do you celebrate?
So usually I dance. Although I will say I got a little obsessed this summer with TikTok. So
you did? You're on TikTok. Oh, okay.
No,
so you gotta check her out. No, you were watching those 12-year-old girls doing the dance? Me too! And I had to play it 100 times until I got the freaking dance. It was so annoying to me. I'm like, how can I not understand that?
Yeah, it's so hard.
Did you do the robot dance? I tried that. Oh my God, hilarious.
Oh my God,
I figured it out though.
Yeah, okay, so I guess we can take that after the call, because you might have some for me. So, but I did get obsessed a little bit with TikTok, and I also found that I was staying at my desk too much this year. Mm-hmm. And because I got so passionate about helping people, and you know, also I grew my mortgage coaching business this year. So I was all, you know, too much time at the computer. So I made myself take a dance break every morning, like around 10 a.m. and then every afternoon around 2:30. So it wasn't all TikTok moves, but I just
have a webcam, right? That's accessible on your website where we can peek in.
No. So I usually dance to celebrate, but I go and have a glass of wine with my friends. We go out to a nice dinner. So yeah, I usually celebrate that way. But I also like to do some moving, you know, do something with my body so I can feel it. So yeah.
That's awesome. So yeah, we need to celebrate life, especially right now. So we're almost done. We're gonna get kicked out in a second. No, I'm just kidding. But before we end our awesome webinar, again, I want everyone to look at the link and order her book. What's the name of the book?
It's Journey to Success: 52 Weekly Habits You Can Master Without Sticking a Fork in Your Eye.
Okay, so we can get it on Amazon or on the link. So if you want to have additional value, get it from our Lab Code Agent link, please. And if you have any follow-up questions, you are on social media, I assume, right? Facebook, Instagram, and you also have a beautiful website that I saw earlier.
Thanks.
And one question before we finish this: what are you grateful for?
Every day. So I had a health scare a few years ago. So every day, first and foremost, I am grateful for my health. So, and actually that's kind of why one of the reasons I had such a bad time at the beginning of COVID is because of my health history. I was in complete, isolation for like 2.5 months.
Wow.
So it was really hard, which is part of what inspired this book. As soon as I really did all the research and decided that I would rather, drink lemon and turmeric shots than run around being scared. And I'm not saying that's the right answer for everybody or anything like that, but for me, just really feeding myself with positive reinforcement instead of fear, and lots of even more positive, healthy foods, I thought was better. And I made a huge shift. But yeah, so I'm always grateful for my health, because tomorrow could come and I could not be here. So
I really, really love how you said that. And I also love, I mean, look at her. She's beautiful. She's smiling, but she also had issues in the beginning of COVID. It was not easy for everyone.
mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you.
What about
so
you?
much. Oh, what am I'm also grateful for my health. I also I have an autoimmune disease. So I was also in isolation in the beginning. I'm very grateful for my health and my family. And I've come to appreciate everything much more over the last months. So yeah, thank you for asking. Well, I think we're at the end now. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, for listening. Get the book, and you all make it a beautiful weekend. Thank you, Alicia, for your time. And I'm
My
definitely
pleasure.
going to follow up with you after this beautiful webinar.
We got some TikTok dancing to do.
Yes. All right. Bye, everyone.